So we have wife, mother, entrepreneur, because you are a co-founder of I'm going to say the viral sensation of the Bolthouse Tree Farms, which, is it fair to say that these are like luxury treehouse getaway rentals, kind of for people to reconnect?
Very well said. I mean, that's what we do. It's for couples to reconnect.
Okay.
And there's tree houses, there's domes, and there's mere cabins. There's also a spa. We just opened that.
A spa.
A spa with a wellness haven.
Okay.
But it's like this mountaintop oasis all centered around reconnection.
Okay. Amazing. And so Bolthouse Tree Farm.
It's actually Bolt Farm Treehouse.
Bolt Farm Treehouse.
It's a mouthful. We're actually rebranding. We're simplifying to Bolt Farm because to grow you are fine. I've heard 50 versions of our name. It's hilarious.
Here's the thing is
Bolt
I'm going to get
Farm.
it wrong the entire time. So continue to correct me. Bolt Farm Treehouse.
There you go.
Does she have dyslexia? We don't know. Today, I might. When I was getting dressed for the interview today too, I have worn this top a million times, but I have never looked at the tag. And it's by a brand called Strut and Bolt. And I thought, that's fortuitous for today.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
So, Tori, you and I met almost exactly a year ago when you were in Austin with your husband. What were you guys doing here about exactly a year ago today?
So Seth, my husband, is in the band Need to Breathe.
Yep.
Has been for the past 2+ decades.
Wow, that's a long
like
time.
forever. And they were on the CMT Awards. They were playing their song Banks with Jordan Davis. And so we got to go to the award show. It was a blast. And we came in town early to spend time with family because his brother lives here, this beautiful house that we're in.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I remember we did like a girls' dinner.
Yes.
And I happened to get to sit next to you and I remember hitting it off right away.
Yes. Okay, so as I was driving on my way over here, we have Tara off screen doing some B-roll and she's in town visiting. We took about 10 minutes because 1, I thought it was the CMA Awards. 2, I thought it was the song Brother. So 3, we spent like 10 minutes trying to search their awards show from last year because that performance with Jordan Davis and Need to Breathe for me was really memorable. Like I watched that over and over again. And I am one to repeat things, but not usually performances. They nailed it last year.
They really did.
Yeah.
They're one of those bands, I feel like, as good as the music is when you're just listening to it on Spotify or whatever, like they're better live. And usually that's not the case when you have the production and all the edits, whatever. Like usually the album's better, but they're so good live because you just feel the passion, the energy and everything. And I feel like that's what came through that day too.
Yeah, I feel like they nailed it because I know that there was a lot of country music stuff coming over to Austin, which is obviously also where his brother lives, your brother-in-law. So it's kind of nice to come into town for family and work stuff. Mm-hmm. One thing that I left that night with was how you and Seth met, which is one of my favorite stories even to this day of two people meeting. So I met you through a girls' night with our mutual friend, I would say Olivia, but we know Aubrey. There's a couple other girlies there too. Olivia has an amazing way that she met her husband, and we love Olivia, but yours might take the cake. Wow. I know. Not me pinning two women against each other already, but can you tell them how you and Seth met?
Yeah, no, I'm really excited to share this story and like with the true level of detail that it deserves because usually it doesn't, like I just don't get to share it that often.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for your listeners too to hear it. So because you couldn't have planned this. Like it's like just a God thing. So I used to work in broadcast news.
Yes.
I was an aspiring entertainment reporter, but I was still producing, the early morning news. And then I would just go above and beyond to pitch my boss on, let me do some extra stories. I just want to, get experience and prove myself.
Yeah. Your hair was made for TV.
Thank you. Thanks, Mom, for the good genes there. So I was living in Houston doing that. And I was actually dating somebody at the time. And we were like in a pretty long relationship, like over a year.
Okay.
And he was a good guy.
Yeah.
But just not the right guy, And so ironically, he was a big Need to Breathe fan. So the whole reason I pitched my boss on doing this story, I'm like, hey, can I interview the band? They're doing a show here in town. I'll interview them. We'll make a story out of it. I only did that to impress my boyfriend. Okay. So that he could meet his favorite band. So he comes like, pretending to be my assistant.
Amazing.
I know. And I'm like, so he comes to be my assistant. He's pretending to be my assistant. And I interview the band. So like Seth and I's first meeting is on camera. And like, it's so special to watch. I watch it on our anniversary this past year. And it was
so
like,
you still have access.
I still have it. And it's like equal parts endearing and cringy. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I said that. Just funny. But I interviewed the band And I had done my research and known that all the guys, except for Seth, were married.
Okay.
And so at the end of the interview, I invited them to come to a bar. I was like, hey, after the show, there's this bar down the road. They give to charity. We're going to be there. Y'all should come. And because I knew that Seth was the only non-married guy, I just looked at him to be respectful.
Right.
I have no intentions.
Sure.
Like, I thought I loved my boyfriend at the time, right?
Yeah.
And so
I would have done the exact same thing. Just out of respect.
Yeah. Exactly. So we leave, and what's funny is I learned this later. All the guys were like, dude, she was looking at you. Like, you got to go, And then my boyfriend.
That's such a dude thing to say.
I know, hyping him up,
Yeah.
And a boyfriend talks me out of it. He kind of kind of shamed me. He's like, you invited this Christian band to a bar? Like, what are you doing? You're not going to go? Like, we're not. And so he talked me out of it. So we enjoyed the show. We don't go to the bar. And I learned this later. Seth went. He and I think the guy who, like the drummer in the opening band for them went. He was like going to be his wingman. And they went twice because how funny is this? Like he's used to being backstage where you don't need any of all your credentials or whatever. So he shows up, no wallet, no ID, and they don't let him in. And he runs back and then he gets his stuff and then comes back and
Seth was left out of the green room because he didn't have his credentials with him?
No, he went to the bar.
Oh,
he went to the bar.
Got it.
Sorry.
Went to the bar.
He went to the bar
to
meet me. Didn't have anything.
Okay, I thought he went to go meet you. Didn't have his band pass to get back in the green room. Okay, went to the bar. Too. Yes, to go as far to see you.
Came back, and then I stood him up, and I had no idea this happened. Which, looking back, it looks like I had mega game.
You do,
so I'm grateful for that.
You do.
But I unknowingly stood him up, and I found this out because that was in April.
Okay,
10 years ago, April 2015.
Okay,
yeah,
that is
6
exactly
months
10 years ago.
later. Boyfriend and I break up because we wasn't meant to be, not a good fit.
Okay.
And my quick side note on that, because I remember when, if you're a single person, when I was a single person, hearing people say, oh, just when you know, it's the most annoying thing to hear.
Yeah.
You're like, what does that mean? Give me a formula. And there is no perfect formula. But for me, what the difference was is like when you feel fully comfortable and fully accepted being your true self.
Yeah.
Quirks, flaws, and all. And you're still accepted, and that person also sees your potential and pulls it out. So you're fully accepted and they just naturally kind of make you better, rising you up. That is the when you know factor for me. And so the boyfriend.
I'm looking off screen at my girl Tara over here too, because we both are single. And we were just talking about this yesterday of I think I always thought I'm too analytical. I overthink everything. I ruminate on stuff. So I was like, I actually don't know if when you know will apply to me. And literally, Tori, just yesterday, I told Tara, I was like, I think I've been sitting myself on the sidelines with that incorrectly. So I'm really glad that you're bringing this up.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't think I can overanalyze myself out of the relationship that I'm supposed to be in.
Yeah. You can't. And you're not to anything. You're perfectly you.
Yeah.
And your person will be perfectly them. And it's this balance. In so many ways, Seth and I are very similar. Wow. And in others, we're very different. But the boyfriend I was with at the time, again, great guy, loved God, hardworking, all the things. But I wasn't comfortable being fully me. And I didn't feel accepted as me. And it was a striving to be better and impress. And that's just not it.
Yeah.
Life is too short for that. So we broke up.
Interesting.
But now I was a fan of Need to Breathe because their music was great. We were talking about how great they are live. That after that first interview, that was my first time seeing them play.
Okay.
And so 6 months later.
Were you a fan before that too?
No.
Okay.
No, not at all.
Again, major game.
No.
Didn't know who he was.
Nothing.
Stood him up at the bar.
What's hilarious though, sorry for all the little side notes.
No,
but
I love
have
a
two
little
sisters.
side quest. Okay.
And my youngest sister, Becca, actually met Seth years before I ever met him. They opened for Need to Breathe.
Okay.
They opened for Need to Breathe. They are Need to Breathe.
Opened for Taylor Swift, right? Okay.
Opened for Taylor
That's
Swift.
a big
And my
deal.
sister went to that show and met the band. And so she's dressed in, you remember that era of Taylor Swift, the white dress and the boots.
Sure.
So she's
A lot
wearing
of
that
red.
whole thing. And she's with the band and she's ha, I met Seth before you. But
Gosh, did she get VIP passes?
Yeah,
kind of
it
thing?
was. Yeah,
Okay.
it was so funny. But
So
so I see them
sweet.
6 months later. I'm still working in news, so I have my media pass, meaning I get to be in the
Okay.
pit front row for the first 3 songs.
Yeah.
And I'm up there getting the footage or whatever. And I had come that night with a group of friends, some guys and girls. And I guess Seth saw me because I was right there. I was up in his business taking videos. And he saw me.
In the crowd.
He saw me in the crowd because I was in the
This is
front row.
cool.
And then he sees me go to this guy Like I walked back to this guy, but it was just a friend, but like he didn't know. So he's like, that's the girl. They stood me up, whatever. And so he messaged me on Instagram that night. He's like, hey, he's the one with the serious game. He goes, hey, saw you and your boyfriend at the show. Thanks for coming out. Like that was his way of like trying to get me to say, oh, that's not my boyfriend, find out like the situation.
Yeah.
But like, what are you going to do? Say like, oh no, that's not my boyfriend. I'm
Right.
single. And I also didn't know if that was like a genuine message or if it was like an assistant, like is this outreach? Is this, it was like generic enough. I just didn't know. So I'm like, I'm going to play this cool. And I was like, thanks. It was an amazing show. And like, don't acknowledge the boyfriend comment, and so we go back and forth a little bit. And
this is amazing.
It was so funny. And then he like hits me with a curveball. He was like, because he was like, I'm not going to keep talking to this girl. She has a boyfriend. I've got to find out. And so he like mentions trying to set me up with his brother.
Chandler?
Yes. And I'm like, wait, what? Wait, excuse me? I thought you were like talking to me. I thought you were interested in me.
Seth!
He's like, no, I am. I was just trying to like get to the bottom of this. I was like, okay, good. Because that was like, you really threw me off right there.
Wait, that's actually really funny.
I know.
Does he only have one brother? Is it just two of them? Okay,
Yep,
gotcha.
Yep. And so like soon after that time, we FaceTime and just like clicked. Like we had deep conversation, laughing, all the things. And then this is such a Seth move. Like within a week of that, he calls me. He's like, hey, I have a little break between tour. I'm home right now. And he had two friends, this married couple from Australia visiting him.
Okay.
He's like, my friends are here from Australia. I'm third wheeling with them. And I'm just talking about you this whole time. He's like, if you can get off of work tomorrow, I'll fly you out. Like come and hang, come visit. I was like,
so you're still in Houston at this time?
I'm still in Houston. Okay. I'm working the graveyard shift. So he gives me this call at like 7, 8 p.m. I'm walking into work like in an hour. I'm like, okay, let me see what I can make happen. And I'm just like a get it done girl.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want, like, this is not, I didn't want to seem desperate, but I was like, this is a great opportunity. It's a friend situation. It's in person. And it's either going to be wonderful and change my life or a great story.
Yeah.
Like no loss here.
And so you guys still had not hung out in person?
No.
Except for that one time,
just the
6
interview.
months ago?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm like, let's figure out what's going on here. So I like, after we got off the phone, I like made the arrangements, booked my flight. I go into work. I produce the news from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Like pack a bag, get on a flight, and I'm there the next morning. Like it was like boom. It was so quick.
10 p.m., 6 a.m.,
Yes.
pack a bag. Are you still in full glam, like from TV?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was yeah.
Amazing.
It was a lot.
Best case scenario.
And just had a magical time. Like he made me fall in love with him and Charleston in that first trip, truly. And then our relationship just blossomed from there. And it was pretty quick. Like we had both dated a ton of people separately. And that was helpful because with each one, you get a little more clarity about you know, what you're looking for, what you need. And just that time together, we're like, man, this feels like it. And so it was 8 months from our first date to our wedding day.
Oh my gosh. And the first date is Charleston, not the interview.
Correct. Yeah. Not a date.
Give or take.
I sit him up, remember? Come on.
Tori, I don't think that I think I forgot about the part where he picked you out of a crowd, flies you down to Charleston, and then you guys just, when you know.
Yeah. We stayed up all night talking just about everything. And I'm like, whoa.
I feel like this, if you guys ever needed to get into like fiction writing, I feel like this is just such a story tale dream for a girl to want to be picked out of the crowd by the band member, but you're still too cool to drop your life for him, like stood him up at the bar.
Actually was my dream. Like rewind, like, but for Joe Jonas. So embarrassing. Seriously, my sisters and I went to so many concerts trying to get discovered. Thank God it didn't happen.
Joe Jonas less than Seth Bolt. But oh my gosh. So have you always been a music fan then?
Not really.
Okay, you just knew that you were meant for the rock star life at some point or another.
It knew it was calling my name. But I think I just loved going to live music. Like it's such an experience. And my sisters and I just kind of made that one of our things. But honestly, like I feel like I'm a horrible musician's wife because I'm pretty basic. I'm like, I find my thing and then I just listen to that, run it into the ground.
Yeah.
And like I don't know what's popular right now. I have no idea.
Do you have something on repeat right now?
Forrest Frank.
He's so good.
We just saw him live too. His concert was so amazing.
Now, do Seth and him know each other?
They do now, but
Okay.
no, they like didn't know each other. But we
Yeah.
just love his music. He
Yeah.
really is changing. I feel like the Christian music
Yeah.
industry.
And you have a 2-year-old, so I feel like his stuff is so easy to play in the house and you don't have to worry about it
Exactly.
either.
Yeah.
When you met Seth and you just knew that he was the one, did that scare you or did that bring you comfort?
I think it brought me comfort.
Okay.
Because one of my biggest fears with finding my person was that I would have to settle.
Yeah.
Because like finding someone who shared my faith and
Yeah.
would bring me closer to the Lord was a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
And I had dated some really boring Christians. And
Yes.
I'm like,
it's so
I just
real.
have that like sparkle for life. Like I don't
Yeah.
come from a family of entrepreneurs, but I was always kind of wired that way.
Yeah.
And I like being out of my comfort zone. I like, doing big things. And to find someone who was even, light years ahead of me in that perspective, who would continue to pull that out of me and not try to like stifle it.
Yeah.
I was just like, wow. So it was very comforting. Because I was like, I knew what I was looking for and I just hadn't found it. And I started wondering if I was asking for too much.
Yeah.
Hoping for too much, waiting for too much. But I told myself before I met Seth, I was like, I would rather never get married than marry someone and feel like I'm settling. Like, how sad would that be?
Right.
How
old were you guys when on your first date, we'll say? Do you remember?
I was 24.
Okay.
And he's 8 years older than me.
So there's a little bit of an age gap. Okay. My mom always said that she thought I would marry a little older too. So that makes sense to me.
I'm a fan.
That checks out. So growing up in Houston, 2 sisters.
Grew up in California. I just moved to Houston for work and for the boyfriend at the time that I was dating.
Okay.
But yeah, I grew up in Southern California.
Okay.
So which is even like funnier to me. Like I grew up in Southern California near Malibu, LA, and then now I'm like living, in these rural areas of South Carolina and now Tennessee, off grid, no plumbing, as we're building this like treehouse empire, Like I was not born and raised a country girl. Like a lot of this was new territory for me.
Okay. Because you, especially being on TV, doing broadcast journalism, it's full glam, it's hair, it's put together. But I would say that that's probably not what your life looks like a lot right now.
No.
So you guys are the owners of the Bolt House.
Oh, it's so close.
No, it's still wrong.
Bolt Farm. It's okay. Oh, literally, I've heard so many things like Bolt Family House Farms. It's Bolt Farm.
Bolt Farm.
Can't go wrong. Yeah.
We got some Bolt Farms. We got the BF going down here. Tell me about the first treehouse then that you guys built, because this was kind of initially Seth's imagination coming to life, right?
Oh yeah, he's a huge visionary.
Okay.
Like I don't think I've met anyone with vision as big as his.
Wow.
He's really gifted. And so he had the vision for the first treehouse.
Okay.
And it was about 2013 when he had the idea.
Okay.
And it took him 2 years to convince his dad to get on board. They built it together. His dad is a builder. And Seth saw Airbnb popping off, Instagram really growing. Treehouse Masters was the biggest show at the time.
That's right.
And he was like, oh, there's some synergy here,
Yeah.
And so they decided to build this treehouse on his family farm where he grew up in South Carolina. And we met in the process.
Okay.
So we had done like the basic framing, but when it came to like design and what is this really going to be, he says, inspired by love, he wanted to make it a treehouse worthy of his wedding day.
Okay.
And so he made it luxurious and romantic. I mean, he designed and decorated the whole thing.
But he was starting this even before you guys were dating.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Or like conceptualizing it.
Conceptualizing.
Started, But he builds it during the process and, we're getting ready to get married and we had our honeymoon there. It was so magical. Like we had our first look for our wedding and then we got married on that property as well and then honeymooned in the treehouse. And
so he literally just thought, treehouse, I want to build it. My dad has the background. We can get this up and going.
Yeah, he always wanted to try a treehouse as a child, but it was never, possible or in the cards. And so he was like, I finally want that. And also I think part of the inspiration for him was just like wanting that respite.
Yeah.
And you can get back into nature, like spending so much time touring and in cities. He would feel his spirit lift when he's back in nature. He's like, I want that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's literally where it started. And then thinking, ooh, if people will come to this random treehouse in, Walhalla, South Carolina, I can market it on Instagram and I can sell it on Airbnb.
Okay.
Let's just see what happens. We never went out, to start this big business. It kind of just happened. And it was on our honeymoon that we felt the impact of the environment.
Okay.
It just really helps you quiet the noise, put your phones down, be present, play a record, journal together, like lose track of time
Yeah.
together, being very present. And we knew that like my schedule with news and everything he was doing with the band, it just wasn't sustainable. And we're such passionate, hardworking people. We're like, we want to have something that we share, that we can like charge after together.
Yeah.
But we had no idea what that would be.
Yeah.
And we left our honeymoon knowing it was creating more spaces like that.
Do you feel like you knew in your gut that this is what to do next in the same way that you sort of knew that Seth was the one? Was that sort of like the same peaceful, like this is a big decision, but I just have this peace about knowing?
Yeah, it was. And it was a combination of that piece, but also being scared to death, right? Like
Yeah.
I have no hospitality background, neither does he.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm going to quit my job for this uncertainty,
Yeah.
And I knew it was right because it checked so many boxes
Yeah.
for our personal lives, for the impact we want to have. But we had no roadmap.
So you build one treehouse. Love it. You guys stay there for your honeymoon. And then you're like, we're going to build some more. And so you end up quitting your job so you can build some more in South Carolina with him. So you move from Houston to South Carolina after you get married. Was that scary leaving your job? Like for me, I know when I left my 9 to 5, it was really scary to go into full-time entrepreneurship. I didn't super have a roadmap either. Like I knew that I wanted to at least make my base salary in podcast production before I would leave my 9 to 5. But looking back, it's been almost 7 years. I'm like, I don't know if I'm as gutsy now as I was back then to make that leap. But it felt like the right time. It felt like I had mitigated enough risk to go ahead and make the jump. But how did it feel when you left your 9 to 5 to step more into full-time entrepreneurship?
Yeah. I just trusted like Seth and I's determination and belief
Wow.
and work ethic to make something happen.
Yeah.
And I did. Like, I don't want it to sound cocky, but I was just like,
No.
I know that we are so committed to making this work, and if it's not this, then we'll pivot. So I was actually very excited to not be working for like the man anymore.
Yeah.
But the thing I didn't expect was to, I guess, struggle with a little bit of identity issues because I realized that like I did tie myself to my career in news because when you meet someone, there's really two things that always come up, right? Like, where are you from and what do you do? And I didn't really have, I guess, language around, well, what do I do? Like, I didn't feel like an entrepreneur yet. I didn't do anything yet. I'm like looking for land from home, like, and I'm working really hard, but I have nothing to show for it for quite a while, actually. And I'm like, how do I describe this in a way that people take me seriously? And I felt misunderstood. There were a lot of people in our circle who they thought I was just becoming a stay-at-home wife, which there's nothing wrong with that either.
Right.
But that wasn't me. I knew how hard I was working and what I was working towards. Seth has, like, being such a visionary, he's great about speaking in the present about what he knows will happen, like where he's going. And I'm not really that way. I'm very like logical. I'm like, what is true right now?
Yes.
And thank God he has that vision because that really has opened some big doors for us. But I was like, I just had a hard time with it. And people didn't really get it. And so I felt like there was like probably a year of like working underground with nothing to show and just kind of like struggling to be like, okay, what do I do? And it would be like kind of awkward.
I
but
totally
looking
get
back,
that.
I'm like, why do we care so much about that? Put so much weight into what we do.
Olivia was the same way, and I had her on a second time as well. That episode hasn't come out yet, but she reiterated it on that episode as well because she also quit her job before she had something to show what she was doing for it. And she and Kyle were flipping houses at the time before she started into recipe development. And now obviously she's so huge on so many different platforms. But she said she went through the same thing, especially when they were working with project managers on the construction stuff. They talked to Kyle and they thought Olivia was just at home tinkering around with recipes. And she was like, one, I was building something, but two, I was also helping him flipping houses. And so I know for her, she went from that. She was at a Big Four firm. So also like you, like a very impressive job, especially for a female in today's world, to then put that down a little bit and you're planting seeds, but there's nothing to show for it for a year or two. And sometimes it does take even more. It's interesting that stripping away of that identity that you don't even know is there until it is kind of taken away. Okay, so you guys said it was about a year that you were building all of this up. So how long did it take between purchasing the land and actually building and getting things open for BF, Bolt Farms.
Yeah.
I'm a slow learner, but we're going to get there.
Man, it was a process. I mean, I'm trying to think back to our second development, Charleston. Like we are drivers. Like we were like working 7 days a week, basically, you know.
Wow.
We couldn't
newlyweds. Doing all
newlyweds
this.
sold our house. So he convinces me to live with him in a camper in the woods. We bought 35 acres near Charleston.
A camper in the woods.
Girl, like it takes a special man.
I was going to say, this is true love if we're at a camper in the woods in our first or second year of marriage.
It was a season. I was like, are you just trying to break me and see what happens?
Because was he still touring at the time? So you're sometimes alone
like, hey,
in the camper in the woods.
Nestled in at home in our camper and like, bye, I'm hitting the road. Hold it down. You got it, right? I'm like, oh.
You're so brave.
Like literally, we've been doing that Porta-John life for years.
No.
I used to have
think
like
about that.
anxiety just thinking about a Porta-John, and then that was my reality. People don't know that.
Okay, you wouldn't know it. I mean, maybe I need to do the Porta-John life. If it makes my hair look like that, I'm willing to sacrifice whatever it takes.
You don't have to do that. You can skip that one. But I mean, we did whatever it took to be there. We wanted to live on the property while we were building it, be there every day, inform the decisions. Everything was, brand new for the first time. It's custom. So we're speaking into every little thing. We had to be there.
Yeah.
And we also had no money. So we did a lot of the work ourselves. Like I have like old iPhone footage of like Seth and I with like weed eaters, and he's running a chainsaw. We're clearing everything ourselves in like hot summer of Charleston. I just remember being like drenched, but we had no other option, but like we loved it. We were doing this hard work together. And what's crazy is like we spent, probably 2 years, clearing it, prepping it, building it, the whole thing. And right as we open our business, they adopt these anti-Airbnb laws and shut our business down.
So South Carolina is implementing these, you can't rent out Airbnbs.
Certain areas. And so we were on this like rural island outside of Charleston that we didn't know that they were so anti-development. We're not like studying the politics of what's, we're just like head down building our thing.
Right.
Like who hates tree houses? No one, right? Like
South Carolina.
Apparently.
What do you do after that?
It was, it was like the most challenging thing we had ever gone through. And I think a lot of people would have quit. Like we talked about that. We were like, gosh, we felt like God brought us here. Like, did we misread? Did we like hear him wrong? Did we do the wrong thing? Like, how do we start over? What do we do from here?
Yeah.
But
so you had 4 properties built down there?
4 tree houses. Yeah.
Okay. And then South Carolina's like, you can't do anything with them.
Couldn't do anything. We could rent them for 7. We could rent 2 of them for a collective 72 days of the year. Like, you can't run a business on that.
Also, what's the point?
It's stupid.
Okay.
And we had a full calendar already too, because guests are booking in advance, like people coming to celebrate their honeymoon, birthday. And we're like, well, we don't want to ruin their plans. So we hosted them anyways.
Okay.
For free. We refunded all their money so that we could be in good standing with the law, and told them, come anyways. We don't want to like ruin this, special moment for you. Just come on us.
Wow. So you've built all this stuff. You've put your time, money, and investment into this. South Carolina shuts it down. You end up giving this away for free to these certain guests that had already booked. But it did show that you had a proven marketing concept that worked. Mm-hmm. Like, this is a business that was working. It had some extracurricular activity things going on, but it at least worked to get people booked, and they would have been a paying customer.
Yeah.
And so what do you guys do after that?
I know. Literally started over.
Okay.
We had to list the property for sale. I mean, how heartbreaking. It's like, it feels like almost your first baby. You bring this thing to life with everything you have together, and then you can't even use it. So we listed it for sale, and it was really hard to find a buyer because you've got basically a commercial property that you can't do any commercial activity on.
Right.
But then we started over. This was in 2020.
Okay.
We said, okay, well, we've walked through this valley. We want to be on the mountain. Like we want our spirit to lift, kind of bringing it back full circle to what started the whole concept, right? Like letting your spirit lift, reconnecting with nature. So we knew we wanted to be in Tennessee.
Okay.
My family's there. It's very business friendly. It's beautiful. Okay. And so we started looking for mountains in Tennessee. I'm like, well, we need to be in Tennessee if we're going to do that. So we moved in with my parents.
Okay.
They have a sweet little barn dominium, We've like never
I think
lived
it's such an underrated thing to move back in with your parents for just a little bit of time as an adult, because you'll never get that opportunity again.
It was hard for Seth. He's like, I'm in like a rock band. I'm living with my in-laws. Like,
oh yeah,
you know?
maybe it is easier for the girlies, because it sounds like you're pretty close with your mom too. I'm like, I don't know, maybe I should just think about it.
Sweet.
My mom and I could be roommates again. I can see how a dude that might be harder, especially with like how much he's just exposed to and like opened up to on the weekends and stuff, like playing. But again, the stripping of the identity process.
True.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So we like rebuilt there, and it was cool. We actually like laid things out for the domes and the treehouse designs in my parents' barn with like painter's tape on the floor and all this. And so we're looking for property. We find a gorgeous mountaintop, where we are now, in this rural area called Whitwell. It's outside of Chattanooga.
What was the place in South Carolina called?
Wadmala Island.
And then in
Don't build
Tennessee,
Treehouse.
it's called Whitwell.
Whitwell.
Okay, this is like some fun names.
I know all the Wadmala, Whitwell, Walhalla is where it started.
And it reminds me, this is like such a weird like callback. Is it Walla Walla Island?
Oh, yeah. Walla Walla.
Like from Nickelodeon or
with
Disney,
like the yellow toad thing.
This is where my brain starts to think about things. But anyways, we have like the W kind of situation going with both of the cities. One is a little bit better than the other. How did you guys find the confidence in yourself to do this again? Like, what were the conversations with you and Seth like at this point in your marriage?
Yeah, we had a lot of tough conversations at that time because I am pretty risk averse and he has a higher tolerance for it, clearly, you know, and like what we went through in Charleston, it really did rattle both of us.
Yeah.
But I think I was slower to be like, okay, let's get back up again. I was like, maybe had a little more doubt or just pain, being like, wow, we're really going to do this again? And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome. And so I'm like, well, we're not going to do that. What's going to change? What's going to change about our process? And we made a big change. And it honestly, it shifted everything. And the change was investing in mentorship and investing in ourselves, because in the early days, we told ourselves we couldn't afford it. And it's true, like we couldn't, you know, but we're like, no, we can't afford mentors. We're just going to figure it all out ourselves. Yeah. And we did, but we crashed into walls along the way and faced immense pain. Like the whole project in Charleston was because we had one broken link in our plan. Yeah. You know, we didn't have an entitlement for the future. We didn't know what was going on behind closed doors with the politics in the area. And that cost us literally millions of dollars, you know, in years of our life that we'll never get back. And so we said, okay, we're not doing that again. Instead, we're going to play smarter. We're going to surround ourselves with people who have been there, done that, in this industry and in different industries, to get perspective of different people.
Wow.
And it's going to be more money than we ever spent on it. Like I remember the first time he called me, he's like, okay, like I found an incredible group with this wonderful leader. It's going to be like $40K a year. I was like, babe,
for mentorship.
That's a lot of money.
Wow.
I was like, holy smokes. I was like, okay. He's like breaking it down. I'm like, okay, I support you. I think we should do this. Don't hassle me next time I want to buy shoes. Okay. And like, I hope this works, but it does. Like, I remember asking him a question of like, hey, this is something we're thinking about doing. What do you think? And he's like, oh, like I had that same idea years ago and here's why it breaks down. Don't do it. That conversation alone saved me like $37,000 in 6 months. You know, I'm like, okay, this clicks for me.
Yeah.
And so when you compress time, I mean, just looking at our story, that's true for us. I mean, we've been in this business for a decade, but had to restart after 6 years in. So 6 years of wandering in the wilderness, trying to do it on our own with brute force, invest in ourselves and get mentors. And June will mark 4 years of being opened in Tennessee. Gosh. And in those 4 years, we built 23 units, a spa, wellness haven, and more on the way. We're building right now. And it's just a night and day difference. And it was scary to make that investment, but I'm like, okay, we have to do something different.
Yeah.
And it has truly paid off.
Okay. Did it rattle your faith initially when things didn't work in South Carolina? Or do you feel like your faith is something that's always been pretty consistent throughout your life?
Yeah. I mean, it definitely did rattle it. My faith is very strong. My relationship with God, you know, is very personal. Okay, I have to tell you a story that kind of like ties it all together.
Okay, great. I love that.
Because we didn't get to a point of like questioning, God, but we were like, why did you bring us here?
Yeah.
Like, why? Like, this is so much pain.
Mm-hmm.
And so, gosh, I haven't told this story in like a very long time. I'm emotional even just thinking about it. But when we were looking for land in Charleston, we were overwhelmed, right? Brand new, starting out, everything's so expensive. And Seth prayed, like kind of playfully. He was like, God, please give us a sign of where we're supposed to be. And if that sign could be an eagle, that'd be awesome.
Specific.
Bald eagle, would love that,
Yeah.
And so we found the property that we fell in love with. And we had met this couple who, like, they just like loved the concept. They wanted to help us be part of this in some way or whatever. And we were going to meet them on the property just to like show them and like look at it. And the realtor who we'd been talking to meets us there. He was supposed to just be there to like kind of let us in, answer some questions. And he surprises us with the contracts. He's like, hey, there's other people interested. Like, I don't want to split this up because we couldn't afford the whole thing. We were going to buy a portion. He's like, got someone else is interested. Like, if you guys want it, you got to sign this today. We're like, whoa,
okay. This is fast.
Not ready.
Yeah.
And this other couple was going to be the one to like they were going to like put money, just like literally give/donate. Like, it was like $200,000 for us to just buy this property with no strings attached so that they could just be part of this work and this vision. Crazy. But like, this was going to be like a long process and conversations. And he just hits us with the contracts. And we're sitting there on this like rackety old picnic table. It's the only thing that there is on the property. And we look up, there's all these gorgeous oak trees, and a bald eagle, like 20 feet away, sits and perches on this branch.
Wow.
And just sits there. And Seth starts crying. He's like, I got to sign this. And so we signed the papers. The people do too.
Wow, I'm crying. Okay.
And the eagle flies away. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was so incredibly beautiful. Actually, Mark Batterson, the Christian author, wrote about it in Whisper.
Really?
Beautiful testimony. Like, he does a better job telling the story than I did.
That's amazing.
So we were like, this is a God thing. Like, we're supposed to be here. So God, why did you send the eagle if we were going to walk through hell? I mean, hell.
Right.
Like, the community try to like smear our names, run us out of town. I had to drive by a huge sign that said no bolts. Okay. Because we were like trying to, make an exception for our land usage, and they just didn't want it. They were like, if they approve this, that will open the floodgates for development. And they were terrified. So I was at a community meeting and listened to them say, we have to rob them of any hope.
If that's not Satan coming after you with that specific wording.
Literally.
Tori.
Just devastating.
Of course.
And so I'm like, God, why? But what's really beautiful, and it took me a long time to realize like what he's doing, right? But we knew he sent the eagle for a reason. This is a good thing. It was in the wrong place. But Charleston ended up being our training camp where we learned a lot of painful lessons, and thank God it wasn't at scale. It wasn't 23 tree houses. It was 4. And now what we're doing with our business, we're actually doing these workshops at Bolt Farm where we're helping people who own a short-term rental business. They want to scale it, or those who like have a vision or an idea and they want to get started.
Yeah.
And we're helping them do that. And everything we walked through in Charleston has given us the experience, the scars, the grit, the testimony to do it. Without that, it would have just been all easy, this was just popular from day one.
Right.
Success is a poor teacher.
Yeah.
It's failure where you really learn things. And like what we walked through in Charleston is now our testimony that allows us to do these workshops and bring up and help others, which is so life-giving and also a good business.
Yes.
And none of that would have been possible without that. And I just feel like that's such a nice wink from God, being like, I brought you through this for a reason.
Yeah.
And now like you get to share your testimony and it can help others.
Gosh, it makes me think of 2 things. One, I like that Seth was specific in his prayer. And I think that sometimes people are afraid to ask for specific things and pray specific things. When I moved to Austin, I prayed. I was like, Lord, before I move there, I'm a risk mitigator like you. I was like, can you send me just one friend that lives there? Maybe they have a house and maybe they need their dog sat so I can stay for a week and I'm not having to spend a bunch of money on like a hotel or something else like that. And so it was maybe a couple weeks later, I was a bridesmaid in a wedding, and one of the girls there lived in Austin. had a house, was going on her first vacation in 10 years and needed somebody to watch her dog.
Let's go.
Yes. And I was like, that is when I started to learn even more. Like, I would like to start praying more specific prayers. And Austin has been such an interesting time for me that it's probably one of like my bigger decisions that I haven't necessarily questioned, but I haven't gotten like the full answer of what was this about? Because I never thought it was going to be a long-term thing, but I feel like recently the Lord is starting to uncover some of that. And the verse that comes up to me with that is Psalm 37:4. Delight yourself in the Lord and he will give you the desires of your heart. But sometimes we don't even know what the desires of our heart are. And so trusting the Lord in that of, obviously Charleston was, I cannot imagine how hard that was emotionally, personally, on your marriage, relationally. But giving you the desire of your heart and seeing it come to fruition in Tennessee. The Lord is so kind, and it's hard to sometimes see, but when you can zoom out, it's really a cool thing. Would love to know, you said a little bit earlier that hospitality, it wasn't like a main focus for you growing up. What is that like now, kind of being in the hospitality industry?
Yeah. Even though hospitality wasn't something on my mind growing up, I loved serving others, and I loved telling and hearing stories, and that's a lot of what my job in news was all about, right? And so now we get to facilitate these moments for people, mostly couples who are coming here to celebrate something special, and we're just a small part of their story. But what's beautiful is like, we're having impact when you read the guest book. I know me personally, I never write in guest books, and if I do, I'm like, this was great.
Do you have a good handwriting?
No.
I have terrible
That's
handwriting.
probably why I don't write.
That's what I'm
Because
going to
it's
say. If
so
I have to
bad.
write something down, you're not going to be able to read it. And two, it's just a reminder that I never got good at handwriting.
No, I do. But like the guest book entries read like love letters, and people just pour out their hearts and they talk about what they experienced here. Experiencing the peace of God, reconnecting with their best friend. I've met couples where they're like, this was our first trip in 13 years without the kids. Like that's so important. And so to get to be part of that, to hear those stories, I'll like sometimes interview our guests and do like little testimonials.
That's cute. That's a good idea.
I'll get to share our story at happy hour. We'll come and do happy hour sometimes on property, and Seth and I will come, and like I get to still be part of that and do that storytelling, just on the other side. But being in hospitality has been such a fun, I guess, industry choice, because there's so much to it. We're not just running a hotel. We also build it from the ground up. So we're part of, construction and ordering and design, and then, hosting the guests, running the hotel. And then we're not on Airbnb anymore. Like we started out on Airbnb, but we're 100% direct.
100% direct. That's amazing.
Which is like, I'm very proud of that. But that also means we had to build up a whole sales and marketing team and like figure that out. And we're figuring all these things out for the first time. But I love to learn. I think if you're growth minded, there's nothing you can't do. And over time, we've just been able to build an incredible team around us. And to go back to day one when it was me and Seth and one other person, to now this large team of people who love their craft, who love others, and are also growth minded. Like it still blows me away to see what it's become in time, but there's never a dull moment. There's always something new. And most recently now we're spa people. Like Seth he's going through like a spa certification class. He's like, I'm a spa owner now. Like I've got to learn all this,
Was there somebody in your life growing up that sort of started to instill this passion in you, whether it was storytelling or serving others or now this entrepreneurial spirit? Like, was there somebody that maybe fueled that flame for you growing up?
Yeah. Two amazing women come to mind. My mom and her mom.
Okay. Oh, amazing.
Who is Brazilian. So my grandparents immigrated to America right before my mom was born.
Wow.
And my vovo, so that's the Brazilian word for grandma.
Okay.
She just visited Bull Farm like this past week.
I think I did see that on Instagram, but I didn't have this backstory. It makes it even better.
5 feet. Okay. She's never seen anything like it. It was just like blown away. It was so sweet to share it with them. And I say both of them for two reasons. Even though I don't come from a family of entrepreneurs, my dad was a firefighter. My mom was a teacher. Wow. She taught special needs. They're both retired now. Okay. But from a young age, I remember my mom telling me, oh my God, and this is so crazy. Oh my gosh, I didn't even like put this connection. You're an eagle. Wow. And like the Charleston story.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
said you're going to make me cry.
I'm so sorry.
You did.
Your makeup looks too good.
Because I didn't even think about, I wasn't going to tell you the Charleston story, but she always said, you're an eagle, not a parakeet. Wow. You know, she'd be like, you're an eagle. And that helped me like break up with the wrong guys in high school and college because they were holding me back. And she's like, you're an eagle. You're supposed to soar. Fly. And like, they were always just so supportive of that. I remember like being 12 and making little crayon drawn like business cards for babysitting or like things I wanted to, and they were just so supportive, you know, you're an eagle, do it, soar. You want to move? Okay. Like we wish you were closer, but you're an eagle, soar. And then the Charleston story, Elizabeth, that got me. Ready? Jesus.
But it is interesting. Like sometimes when you tell your story concisely on something like this, on a platform like this, it is really cool to see like the overlaps of just like deposits throughout the time.
Yeah.
I might have missed this part of the story, but you talked about this on Instagram that at one point in time, you and Seth were living in a tent. Is this during the South Carolina days or was this
No, this was Tennessee. Girl, we've lived in everything but a house.
Okay.
Until like a month ago.
Amazing.
When we first got married. I'll get to the tent, I promise. But
but congrats on your new house.
Thank you. Awesome. Yeah. He bought a home before we met but converted it into a recording studio. So like there was a bedroom, but that's where Need to Breathe recorded. And so that was where we first lived. Then camper, then treehouse, then camper again, then mom's barn dominium, then tent, then camper, treehouse, camper, house. It's been a wild ride. Like people do not know that. So the tent, though,
there was a tent involved in there. Oh my gosh, this is amazing because you really wouldn't because you are so put together. Like if you showed up in flannel and like oversized pants or something today, I'd be like, yeah, this all checks out. But you still look so beautiful, and I love an enigmatic woman. Like she can be put together, but she can live in a tent. Right. Don't put Tori in a box.
I don't.
Just
no,
in a tent.
Actually, this was like really a funny. God, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. It was just a funny moment where these like some friends of ours who are donors of the charity that Need to Breathe supports, you know, they like hosted us for this event on their private jet. And so they like flew me home. Seth had to stay on, like he stayed because they were on tour. So they fly me home in this private jet. And I land and then go to my camper in the woods with no plumbing. I'm like, what just happened?
Dichotomy here. This is awesome.
What just happened?
We're going to go on a private jet, but we're also going to be humbled once we
Can you just land it right there next to my camper? It'd be great.
That's awesome.
Don't hit the porta-john.
We still need that.
Yeah. But the tent was when we found the property in Tennessee.
Okay.
18 acres on a mountaintop, nothing built on it.
Okay.
The previous owner was so kind. And like when he met us, he just fell in love with our vision, what we wanted to do. He's like, listen, I know it's going to be a process to like actually close on this property because hospitality business trying to get a loan in 2020 after we had just failed, like that was not easy.
That's tough, yeah.
So that took a hot minute, like literally 8 months. But he's like, you know what? This property is yours. Like you can't build anything permanent yet, but like stay here as much as you want. Like this is yours. So
was this Lookout Mountain or is this a different part?
No, it's Whitwell Mountain.
That's
we can
right.
see Lookout. Okay. So yeah, there's like Lookout, Signal, and Whitwell.
Okay.
All in that kind of area.
Okay.
And so he's like, yeah, you guys can stay out here. And so we wanted to start dreaming, get a jump start, you know, on like where we're going to put everything. So we started living out in a tent and we would like stake the domes and everything and flag it. And there was like this like little like rustic wooden shelter thing. It wasn't even closed in. It was just like a roof and like a wooden platform. And so we put our tent under that.
Okay.
And we lived there for like a few months.
And this was not a few days.
No. This was like a thing. Yeah. Wow. We'd go home and say, my parents, you know, live like 2.5 hours away. So we'd go and see them, shower. We would need to, whatever. But back to the tent and to work and start mapping things out, meeting with surveyors, all the things. I'm trying to remember the contraption. I feel like there was we were trying to microwave food and like connected it to the car. I don't even know.
Now you're an electrical engineer too.
I know. It was redneck. It was very redneck, but it was also a sweet season because I remember the very first morning that we woke up from the tent, we unzip it and we see the valley below us filled with clouds. Like it looked like heaven, just like stunning. It took our breath away.
Special.
And I'm like, if I am this moved and just awestruck in a tent, like anything we build is going to be great. People are going to love it. And that's when we knew we're like, this is absolutely where we need to be.
Wow. Okay. So coming back in more to present day. So you guys start building, what was the W name of the?
Oh, Whitwell.
Yeah. With Bolt Farms.
Yes.
We're going to get this by the end of our conversation. When you guys first started building, did you pre-sell before you were building. Okay.
We
Or
did.
before it was
Oof,
done.
talk about a big risk.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so I'm like, I love my husband. He scares me to death sometimes.
Yes, this is amazing.
He's
The
so
thing
good.
about your husband that's actually really interesting, because I only met him that one time really briefly when we hung out with the husbands after that dinner. He's very quiet, but in like very, I wouldn't say reserved, but he's not going to be like the loud one in
No.
the room from what my small
Yeah,
piece
he
of
listens,
experience.
and he really doesn't speak unless he has something to say that adds value.
Yes.
You know.
But he is a big decision maker. I think in my mind, I always associate like big risk takers with these like big personalities that's going to like gather all the attention in the room. But he is also not. You guys are both in the same way, like dichotomous in like how you look, but you're also in a tent where he has this big vision casting, but he also won't speak until he has something really to say. So
I mean, he can also be very unhinged too, but
That's
for the
right.
most part, yeah.
This is the truth from the wife. But yeah, I think that's really cool that he is such a big visionary, but it seems like he chooses the things where he wants to pull the lever and kind of go full force on it.
And sometimes you do. Like, if you're going to make small risks and small decisions, you're going to make small steps in your progress.
Yeah.
You know, it's only when you're willing to make some leaps that you can actually gain traction. And so for us, we found the property, you know, in Tennessee. We're trying to buy it. It's hard to get a loan. Found a local bank who was going to partner with the SBA to get this through, but that is a long, crazy, tedious process.
Yeah.
Like, you basically have to like give blood to verify who you are.
Firstborn.
And so it's 2020. We all know what the world looked like then. So much uncertainty. And we were getting close to Black Friday.
Okay.
And Seth is like, man, we don't own the property yet, but like, this is the moment that people are going to actually be opening their wallets. Like,
he's such an entrepreneur.
I know. He's like, they're going to spend right now, like Black Friday to Christmas. And then who knows what's going to happen after that? Like, we can't start selling in January of 2021. We don't know. So like, we need to be ready. So we hired a 3D rendering artist for like $500 on Fiverr.
Awesome.
And we're like just showing the property with our phones, like showcasing it, talking about our dream, what we're going to build. We had already built trust through Charleston and all that we had done with our, you know, fans and guests. And so we're just showing up, speaking from the heart, sharing our vision, and then we show what we're going to build with these renderings. We pull like many all-nighters and whip together like a Shopify website. And it looked pretty good.
Honestly. Yeah, I bet.
But like, we have nothing in play. We don't even own the land. And we sold $1 million in reservations.
Do you guys have a video of like the sales coming in and your faces of?
I wish, but I still remember hearing the ding because we turned our phone. You know that you hear it every time. We're like, oh, it's working. Oh my
gosh. Were you
gosh.
shocked?
Yeah, we were like, we had been bleeding cash from Charleston because we're trying to sell it but couldn't, and so we're like, gosh, we've made $0 this year. It's November.
Yeah.
If we could
it's
make
11/12 of the year.
I know. Right? Like, here we go. And Seth thought this was lofty, but he's like, if we can make $500K, that will like cover a lot of our expenses and like we will be able to survive. We still had some team members that we were like paying to keep with us.
Wow.
It's like $500K and we made $1 million.
Amazing.
Didn't own the land.
Double portion. Oh my gosh.
But that was risky. That was also incredible. And that gave the bank enough faith because they saw, wow, people really do want to come here.
Yeah.
And so the bank ended up like getting rid of the SBA and just did the full loan, and we closed soon after that. Okay. Now, lesson learned, if you're in the short-term rental business, construction is totally the wild, wild west.
Yeah,
and so
I feel like it's just fluid with those timelines.
And so we had a contractor at the time, and he gave us this deadline, so then we gave ourselves like 3 months buffer. And we're like, that feels good, you know? No, not good. So like, if I could have gone back and done it all over again, I still would have done the big pre-sale event, but just tie it to like a deposit or a gift card, like a reservation. And hey, we're going to keep you in the loop, and we're not going to like tie it to a date until we're done. But we didn't do that. We tied it to dates. And it honestly was so much pressure that it kind of took the fun out of it. Like,
sure.
Because it just was a looming countdown of like, okay, we just like took all these people's money. We have to deliver.
Right.
And our name's on the line. And so we built at breakneck speed, again, 7 days a week, sun up to sundown, beyond. Like, we brought in lights.
Where were you living at this point?
In a camper on the property.
Camper. Okay, we've upgraded from a tent, but we're back in a camper. Okay.
So funny. We had no plumbing. And Doug, who was a former owner and who was like helping us with some of the infrastructure and stuff like that, he had a forklift, or he had like a Bobcat. machinery and like a giant, like 100-gallon tank of water. And he would fill the water with his tank, put the tank in the Bobcat and like raise it. It was so redneck. I have to
That
just
was
send
how you showered.
That was how we would get, water to shower. It was crazy.
This is like the stupidest question I could possibly ask after you just told me you showered with the Bobcat. Tori, do you blow dry your hair?
Sometimes. It's not a dumb question. So, I'll either go with like the air dry and then I'll just like curl it.
Okay.
Or but I got this from Aubrey, my sister-in-law, the what's it even called? Like the dry bar, blow dry brush.
Yes.
Kind of gives you like that Rachel Green from Friends hair.
Okay.
Oh, I love that.
I'm going to have to try that out.
Yeah.
Again, not necessarily important if you're showering outside with a Bobcat, but if you can look good without blow drying your hair, just know how blessed that you are. And then after it was open and everything the construction was done, smooth sailing?
No, never. It never is.
So what
Smoother.
happened? What happened after that? Like, let's bring it back up a little bit closer to like present day, that you guys have been able to build a really sustainable business that just continues to multiply.
Yeah. I think the biggest shift is like when we were starting out, it was like, what can we do ourselves? Can I project manage this? Like literally helping. Can I weed eat this? Whatever. And now it's, how can I develop as a better leader so that I can lead this team? And if I'm not growing, then I can't lead them. And so now, like, my day looks very different. My work looks very different. Like, how can I be a coach that inspires my people to come alongside me for this dream, and also allows them to see and realize their vision for their life and themselves within that? How can they grow personally and professionally? And that's hard. Like, I thought that would be easier, like working at a desk, than like physical labor of things that we have done. But people are difficult. We're all unique. No day is the same. No two people are the same. So you can't just show up and lead a team of people the same way. It's like very individual.
Yeah. How big is your team now?
It's pretty big. We've got 37 full-time employees.
37?
And 18 part-time.
Oh my gosh. Now, are you a people pleaser at all, or do you have people-pleasing tendencies?
Recovering. We're definitely a recovering people pleaser. Seth is not. He's like the furthest thing from that. So thank you, husband. He's helping me.
Yeah.
And also just like being a business owner forces you to not. You just have to be direct, and back to mentors. Like, I have many mentors that have helped me just come a very long ways.
Yeah.
And John Maxwell is one of them. And he specifically like spoke to that this past week. He was helping me like not, he's like, would you rather be liked or respected?
Yeah.
I'm like, oof, that's good.
And he said this to you personally?
Yeah.
I feel like that hits different.
I know it does.
Like, okay, this sounds like a really good thing to read in a book, and like you're going to like asterisk it and journal it and maybe underline it. But for him to tell you that,
he's like, Tori, listen. He's like,
wow.
Stop being nice. You're not always going to be liked, but like people might like you and they will leave you. They will leave your business. They will no longer work for you, But if you are respected and you do the thing that will help them grow, like they might not like you in the moment, but they will respect you and they will walk alongside you for a long time.
Yeah. Wow. I know that that's been an interesting thing for a lot of my clients, because I produce podcasts for other people as well. And they started out, I would say, as a content creator, which is a very isolated solo thing to do. And then it continues to grow. So now they have a team and they're like, I know how to create content, but managing a team is a totally different thing. And I have heard it time and time again. And even for myself, like as the team grows, I almost like hedge my conversations, and I'm realizing like I'm not actually saying what I want to say. I'm like kind of talking around it and I'm trying to soften it, but it's not getting the point across. And even actually listening back to podcast episodes, or I'll even try to watch back Zoom recorded like coaching sessions, and I'll be like, oh, I thought I said this, and I'm realizing this is actually what I said. And so
it is on you to go back and review that. Like, wow,
it's excruciating. Have a margarita waiting for you after you do that. Yeah, it has really helped, because I'm like, I thought I was being clear in that moment, and I certainly wasn't. And so it's a really good exercise to go back on that. Okay, so you started out with 10, now have 18?
23.
23. Yeah. And then is that with or without the spa?
That's without the spa.
Okay.
So 23 rentals.
Okay.
And then the spa. And you have to see photos. I can't describe it well enough, but the Cliffside Wellness Haven, it's a multi-acre spa on the side of a mountain with like hot springs, lagoons, a cold plunge, a steam room, a sauna.
Lagoons?
Lagoons.
Okay.
Like kind of like a natural hot spring vibe.
Okay.
So it's not just like a hot tub.
Yeah.
They're like these like pools, like all built into the rock bed.
Okay.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Like, Seth, you have outdone yourself. There's 2 more spa treatment rooms connected by a rooftop deck where we'll do yoga classes and sometimes private dining. And Seth just surprised me recently for my birthday with we did the first private dinner up there. It was so magic. You can see a view of 3 states.
You guys have really created something so special and so unique. It's so cool, the heart behind it. It's cool that you guys are a husband and wife team making it happen. So one, thank you for sharing your story. This has been really fun to learn some more. I usually end all of my conversations with one last question, and it's a little bit of a callback to earlier in our chat, but is there a saying or a phrase that your mother or your grandmother, who was the answer to a previous question, that were kind of known for saying that if you were to leave it on a napkin or at a guest book somewhere, do you have a saying that comes to mind?
Oh, I love that. This one's from my grandmother, Vovó, and it's Seja Forte, and that's Portuguese for be strong.
Be strong. Okay, can you say that for us one more time?
Yes. Seja Forte.
Oh, it sounds so cool.
So I know.
I love
Portuguese
that.
is like Spanish meets French, a little bit influence. So
yeah.
But yeah, be strong. Be strong in the Lord.
Yeah.
Be strong. And she had to be strong.
Yeah.
My grandfather came to the US to start a life and get his first job and couldn't afford to fly her out. So she's back home with her son, who's a year old.
Wow.
And then later they move and all the uncertainty. And I feel like I've seen strong women model that.
Yeah.
Steadfastness, supporting their husband, doing what they feel called to do. And that's what she did. That's what my mom did. And that's what I'm getting to do now.
That's a good one. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, Tori, if somebody wants to follow you or get a reservation or wants to just learn more about you, where can they find you on socials and I guess on the website now?
Yeah.
That is not Airbnb.
Hey, yeah. So the website is boltfarmtreehouse.com. I had to think about Bolt Family Farm Fields.
Somebody's been saying it wrong the entire time and it's not Tori.
You're totally good. boltfarmtreehouse.com. Same for Instagram. And then I'm just my name, Tori Bolt, on Instagram. But
okay, awesome. Y'all give her a follow. Tori, thank you so much. This has been so fun.
Thank you. Cool.